the guy who plowed himself into a mountain with some jets. I mean, how does a jet...
That was a JATO rocket.
That JATO rocket, that's
right.
it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a famous urban legend.
It is. But in real life, how in God's name do you...
In real life, this was, I think it was, I don't remember the year, 1980, something or other Honda Civic, which had the engine up front.
Right.
And in the back I installed a jet engine. So you could drive the car around normally, and then push a lever and the license plate would open up, exposing the nozzle to the jet. You could fire that up and take off at high speed. And they had put that on, I think it's the June 82 front page of the Monitor newspaper. And
what kind of jet engine was that? Do you recall?
It's a pressure jet engine, which is kind of it's a jet engine with no moving parts at all.
Right.
And you know, if you know how jet engines, turbojet engines, and the like work,
I do.
Generally, that's real confusing because you need some moving parts in there to make things go.
That's right.
And it's not a ramjet, and ramjets need to be moving at extremely high speed before they can produce thrust. But this is kind of a strange hybrid, and it produces thrust statically without it moving.
That's really cool. How much thrust, do you know?
That was about 2,000 pounds.
2,000
for a
pounds.
1,600-pound car, that was...
Yeah, oh yeah. So in other words, you're already moving at like, what, 50, 60 miles an hour when you let go?
Yeah, exactly.
And then what?
Well, and then you better hold on.
Yeah, well, how fast? I mean, it takes you from 60 to what?
212 was the fastest we ever had that car going.
212 miles an hour?
Yeah.
You out your mind. Where were you driving these things?
The high-speed run was done at El Mirage Dry Lake in California. And the car was pretty much retired after that because it was a unibody construction and the whole car started pretty much bending from all the forces.
What?
But, I mean, the only reason I brought up the whole jet car thing was that...
you were the driver, right?
Right.
Did you have a death wish?
No, that kind of stuff isn't dangerous if you know what you're doing.
Well, I mean, for example, the car had shaken apart during, maximum thrust.
Yeah, but it didn't.
Well, right, it didn't, but it bent itself up pretty well, huh?
Yeah, that was kind of expected.
I know that you have a car that I remember when we interviewed before. You had built a car that runs on hydrogen, also, right? Yeah,
that was a 1978 Trans Am, and in fact, I entered that in an alternate fuels contest, which was a race at that time from Woodland Hills to California to Kitt Peak, Arizona, and it drove nonstop there on one tank of fuel.
Well, that's interesting because that's a long time ago, and now all of a sudden President Bush is saying we are going to begin moving toward a hydrogen economy. Well,
we should. I mean, it's the perfect fuel. In fact, I was just talking to my girlfriend the other day saying I think I'm going to go ahead and convert our existing car over.
Really?
And I kind of miss making my own fuel. I mean, it's essentially free.
Okay, but here's the question, and I talked to a lot of people about this, Bob. Right now, I think the oil companies imagine hydrogen is fine because, they'll use fossil fuels to put the hydrogen, to create the hydrogen, get it in the cells. You'd still have to use energy to make energy, right?
However, there are other ways. Now, of course, the oil companies and the gas companies want you to crack hydrogen from methane or some other hydrocarbon fuel.
Absolutely.
And that's ridiculous. You're defeating the whole purpose of using hydrogen. Water is H2O.
Yeah.
Now, every school kid knows you take a glass of water, add just a drop of salt in there to get the ions moving around, and take a 12-volt battery and put the positive and negative leads in there. You see one lead let off a little bit of bubbles, and the other lead lets off twice as much bubbles. Well, the lead with twice as much bubbles is the H2, and the O2 is coming off the other one. So just running a little electricity through water gives you a flammable gas.
And
that's the way to make hydrogen.
Okay. So other than the creation of the voltage to do that,
Well, the way I had done it before was I had a fairly large solar array, and what that did was during the day it took and cracked the using an electrolysis setup,
right,
which is what I just described, cracked the hydrogen out of water, and during the night, it was pressurized using the available water pressure into the hydrogen tanks, which contained an iron titanium hydride. It's kind of a granular substance that absorbs hydrogen like a sponge soaks up water, as opposed to just compressing a tank with hydrogen, which is a dangerous...
I was about to ask you, in this process, is there a danger?
No, once it's chemically stored in the hydride, you can shoot incendiary bullets at the tank, and it just does nothing but smolder.
But the gas itself could be dangerous.
Yeah, but the tank only produces as much gas as the car needs at the time.
Gotcha.
The way the setup that I came up with is that the car radiator fluid heats an outer jacket on the tank, and when the hydride heats up, it evolves hydrogen, and it gets into the carburetor. So there's never more than the volume of hydrogen that fits in the tube from the tank to the carburetor or fuel injection system. So it was a very safe system.
All right. What about the car itself? The performance of the car compared to a piston engine. What was the performance like?
We're talking about the hydrogen car or the jet?
Oh, no, the jet. I can imagine that. the hydrogen car.
The hydrogen car. It is a piston car, and the beauty of the system is you can convert any existing piston car to run on hydrogen.
Yes, but
you just need to retard the timing because hydrogen burns so much faster. The flame front just flashes through the cylinders and it'll cause detonation or knocking. But with a couple minor modifications, any car can run on it, and you do lose a little horsepower because there's a difference between spraying a flammable gas in there as opposed to having, a liquid hydrocarbon with all that carbon energy in there.
Well, when you say a little, how much real difference in performance?
Well, I lost a significant amount in the Trans Am, and probably I believe the car was 220 horsepower, and I think I was down to about 150 running on hydrogen.
Oh, but still usable then.
Oh, yeah, you weren't following electric cars by any means.
Well, that's pretty good. That's damn good, actually. So why not do that now to all cars?
I am. I'm going to convert my car over, but
you already told your wife is okay with this, right?
Right.
Bob, hold on a sec. We're at the bottom of the hour. Once again, here is Bob Lazar, and it's good that you've told us some of this, Bob. It gives kind of everybody a background for, what kind of guy you are and what you've been doing, and sounds like you've been having a hell of a lot of fun, actually. I mean, putting a jet in a car, that's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It's a crazy thing to do. But,
and a lot of people, if you ever, do you have a website?
Well, there's a website about me. That's not mine. My website is is UnitedNuclear.com, which is scientific supplies and whatnot that we sell.
Somebody was hoping you'd post the process for the creation of hydrogen on some website somewhere or something. Well, they'll have to dig back in the archives and listen. All right, so now, how did you get involved, if you can remember the first moment or the first contact that anybody made with you regarding Area 51 and S4 and all that stuff over here?
Well, this is the reason why I brought up the jet car initially. That day, in June 82, the front page of the Los Alamos Monitor newspaper had a picture of me and the jet car on it. And on the flip side of the front page, there's an announcement there that Edward Teller, father of the hydrogen bomb, was going to be giving a lecture down at one of the lecture halls at the lab. And I was anxious to hear the lecture, so thinking there were going to be lots of people there, I got there really early, because at the time I was still working for the lab.
Right.
Or was it? Now I'm trying to remember.
Boy,
I was still working for it. But in either case, I got to the lecture hall real early. And as it turned out, there was nobody there. And now I'm kind of waiting around. About 15 minutes goes by, and I see Ed Teller sitting on a little wall outside the hall reading the front page of the newspaper.
Really?
Which I thought was a perfect segue for me to introduce myself because, he's sitting there reading about me. And I